Welcome back to Live, Love, Laugh, the podcast. In case you're just tuning in, we are sitting here on the couch with our guest, Nick Hardy, and he's having a candid conversation with us today about how it is to be a single father in today's world and what that means about the village that we are trying to create and rebuild. So, Nick, how you doing today?
Welcome to the show, Nick. Doing great. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Good. It's good. It's good to have you. So, we heard a lot about you, you know.
All good things, I hope.
Yeah, good things. And we're interested in knowing, like, what is the village to you? Did you have one? Do you have one now for your kids? And, you know, what is with that?
So I definitely have a village now. Mm-hmm. When I started out, not so much. I don't have a big family. So I didn't have a lot of siblings or aunts and uncles to help me with my children, my boys. So a lot of my village came from initially being financially stable enough to pay for daycare or pay for sitters that I vetted or interviewed to make sure, nannies, to make sure that they were the appropriate people to be around my children. That was a short-term solution for me. What I really wanted was eventually to have friends of mine that I grew with it. I trusted to be able to leave my children with. My sons became or were very active. I'm a parent of activity. They can't sit idle hands, idle mind, right? It's this workplace. Mm-hmm. So my sons were in karate. They were in gymnastics. They are football athletes. So what I ended up doing is through those friendships and parent relationships that I forged through being around, because as a single parent, I went to all the practices. I'm the one that went to and found the locations or found the individuals that were going to work with my sons. I interviewed them to make sure they were the right pedigree, the right temperament, the right mindset. They followed. Most importantly, I'm a top-down parent, so no matter who was around my children, my rule, my reign, the way that I raised my children supersedes all. So I needed to make sure I put them around people that understood that. So, for example, when my sons were young, they couldn't chew gum because I think, you know, the cavities that come with chewing gum or having a lot of candy. I need to make sure that I had a babysitter. If my son said, "Can I chew gum?" or if they were at a football camp and they said, "Coach, can I chew gum?" the coach knew, no, your dad don't let you chew gum, so you can't chew gum. So that became how I started to establish my village, and it grew substantially over the years.
How many sons do you have? Like, how many boys do you have, and are they close in age? Or
yeah, I got two sons. My oldest is Kate. His name's Caden. He's 18. My youngest is Nicholas. He's 17. They're 14 months apart.
Okay.
Completely by accident.
Well, completely by. Okay, that's right. What is that?
Slipped
Irish
a little
twin?
bit.
That's what they call Irish twins.
Irish twins.
Okay, all right. You was busy, huh? Y'all was busy.
Circumstantial.
Yeah, right. All right.
Let's say circumstantial.
So, Nick, if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been? When did you become a single dad? At what point? And how long have you been a single dad?
My whole life I've been sitting. No. So my sons are with my first wife.
Okay.
We divorced pretty early. We had been together for a period of time, been married for a period of time, but we divorced when my sons were pretty young. And we had 50-50 custody initially, and then it migrated to me having full physical, full legal custody. And my sons were 3 or 4 when I got that. They're, like I said, 17 to 18 now, soon to be 18 and 19 this year.
Wow. Is mom, she's still around? Was she?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Good.
Right.
Good.
So, I mean, they don't have that aspect where it's no feminine role models or anything in their life, and it's just dad. They have other people as far as, like, women go. Like, you know what I mean? Because sometimes boys need a little sensitivity, right?
So what I will say, the way I'll answer that question is this. For my sons, I have had to be, the majority of the time, everything that they need. Mm-hmm. Be it if it's moral support, if it's the tough hand, if it's the soft hand, if it's the loving touch, if it's the direction, whatever they need, I've had to be. Mm-hmm. Have they had people in their lives that have helped along the way? Sure. Their mom is around, so their mom does play a component and play a role. There are mothers of different teammates that they've had that have stepped in when they do different after-school programs or after-school products. I've had a their Montessori school teacher, principal, the owner of the Montessori school they went to, was extremely involved. She's great. So yes, they've had some feminine influences. Like I said, I'm a top-down parent, so for my sons, I knew how. I had a game plan when they were younger on what mattered to me and how I wanted to raise these young black men. And my game plan has come to fruition. Both my sons are collegiate athletes, will be college collegiate athletes. My oldest son already is playing football at college. My youngest son will be playing football at college when he graduates this year. Both have scholarships. So the game plan is one, I'm team no tuition.
I know that's right.
That's the game plan.
Right. So what about you? When you were coming up, did you have a village? And, in that, how did that affect how you parent your boys?
So, no, I didn't have a village.
Okay.
My childhood, which I won't spend a ton of time on, my childhood was not ideal.
Right.
And the way that molded me was, initially, I wasn't even sure I wanted children because I didn't have a great role model or a great situation when I was younger. So I didn't know if I would be a good parent. Ultimately, I decided for my life in general, because of the way I grew up, I didn't have a lot of money. I was very poor. My family, we struggled. I decided I was going to do all the opposite things that I didn't like if I ever became a parent. And that was my guiding light. So that allowed me to do it. Plus, as I grew up as a man, as I grew up through adversity, as I grew up through the things that came at me left, right, or indifferent, I was able to formulate the person that I wanted to be, and more importantly, the father that I wanted to be, more importantly, based on society, based on the way that the world is and that the world was evolving. I knew how I wanted to raise my sons because I needed them to be strong black men, intelligent black men, culturally responsible and socially aware black men, and college educated black men. So those were all pieces of what I put together when I was formulating how I wanted to raise them and what I wanted them to have in their life.
When you were married, you and your ex-wife were married, was the plan for you to be the single dad, you to raise the boys? Was that the plan, or circumstances led to you?
So it's never the plan to get divorced once you got married.
Of course.
So the plan when I got married was to be married and stay married. That just didn't work out.
Right. And so when the divorce came about and you guys talked about raising the boys, I guess what I'm asking, was that the initial plan, or did circumstances between you and your ex lead to, I'm going to raise the boys?
So I'll answer that like this.
Okay.
Because my sons and their mother still have a relationship.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to answer like this.
Okay.
I made whatever decisions I made based on how I sought custody or how I've raised my children on the best decision for my children. And that's how I still raise them to this day. So every decision that I make it has been and will continue to be on what's best for my sons. And that's how where we are came about. Point blank period.
Gotcha.
So I kind of want to speak to, because you do have male children.
Correct.
So let's, even outside of that piece that you just shared, how important do you feel that it is for the father to raise sons? Like, how important is that?
So I think it's extremely important. I think that, so I get a lot of praise from fathers that I know, mothers that I know, of how good of a parent I am. And when people ask me, why do I think I'm such a good parent, I understood, again, coming from the way that I was raised, the difference between, to me, I believe, if you ask me, I believe I'm an exceptional parent. I believe that there are a ton of good parents and there are a ton of great parents, but the difference between good, great, and exceptional, that line is sacrifice. So I believe that to make a parent exceptional, you have to truly sacrifice for your children. So I'll give you an example. My sons have had a private quarterback coach for a number of years. They wanted to play football. We really wanted to focus on anything my sons were going to do. The same way I approach my life. Anything I'm going to do, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be great. I'm definitely going to learn work ethic and work hard. I'm definitely going to understand grit. They understood grit. Well, that costs money. Transportation to get them to these practices costs money.
Right.
I still got to work. So I'm not rich, so I can just leave my company or leave my office and go do whatever I need to do with my kids. And I didn't have a spouse for the majority of the time I've raised my children. So I had to facilitate financially making those things work. That means that sometimes I couldn't go out and hang out with my friends because I don't have the extra money. Because if I took the extra money to go hang out with my boys, then my son suffer.
Right.
If I took the extra money to go out of town to take a vacation, then my son suffer. So I've had to make the decisions that I've made based on what's best for my children, and that's sacrifice. And that's a very simple example. There have been great examples, there have been smaller examples, but sacrifice is the key. And through my sacrifice, my sons have been able to be where they are now, accomplish what they accomplished, and their accomplishments are their own. Don't get me wrong. I put the structure in place. I have had a firm hand in their life and making sure I guide them the correct way, but my sons did the work.
You're right.
So,
and it's a pretty thankless job. Do you agree? Like, the sacrifice, and I don't think kids really recognize, because they think they're supposed to have, especially when they always have had it, they think they're supposed to have everything that they're getting. So if they're missing a practice or they missing something, and it's because maybe money short this week or something like that, you gonna miss this week, but you're not missing next week. I don't think they understand that this is hard. Like, it's because it's hard. It's not because, I don't want you to do something. It's because this is hard. And they like, why? Why? They don't understand the sacrifice. So it's very thankless. Do you experience that?
No, my sons get up every morning and thank me for everything I've done. They appreciate all the sacrifices. They know all. Of course, it's a thankless job.
I'm about to say, because oh my God, I don't get that.
No,
you know what I mean?
Of course, it's a thankless job.
I thought my kids was just messed up. He had me thinking I was in the wrong house.
So here's how I'll say it. Here's what the time that I'm coming to enjoy. Mm-hmm. So when my sons were younger, right, when they're 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm Superman. I come in the house, they run in bed. I come to school, they run in to give me hugs and kisses up to like 9 or 10. Mm-hmm. Then you get 10, 12, 11, 12, 13, 14. They barely want to hug you. Mm-hmm. They definitely want to kiss you. Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be around.
They don't understand certain things. So, yes, it is a thankless job. But where I'm at now, and part of where I'm at now is because I've always spoken to my children in a way where I talk up to them. I've never talked down to them. Mm-hmm. I've spoken to them. We're very direct. I have open communication. I had to be direct because I had to. It was only the three of us, and the three of us had to make decisions, or I made decisions based on what was best for them, and I needed them to understand that. Mm-hmm. So I've had great conversations with my children all throughout the years. That don't mean they always understood it. That don't mean it wasn't without strife. That don't mean they didn't pout sometime. But I've always had great communication. Mm-hmm. Forward now, with my oldest son being in college for a year, and he's in college 5 hours away because he's in college in Illinois. Mm-hmm. It's been great having conversations with him. Now that he's on his own, it's been great seeing, because we don't always get to see that our teachings and how we raise them it come to fruition or work. So it's great to have those conversations. I recently sent him, when they were younger, I used to read to them all the time, and I used to read this poem to them called "The Deepest Fear." Mm-hmm. And the poem is, our deepest fear is that is not that we are inadequate, it's that we're power beyond measure. So it's a whole long poem. I used to read it to them, and I don't know, at some point when they were 12, 13, it wasn't cool anymore. I stopped reading it to them. Life happened, whatever it was. Mm. And I fell across the poem recently. I personally was having a tough day, and I found the poem and I read it, and it reinvigorated me. And I was like, oh man, I haven't sent this to him. So I sent it to both my sons, and I just said something like, hey son, I don't remember if you remember me reading this. I used to read this to you guys every night. You used to say it back to me. I hope that this gives you some poise in your day. Not every day is going to be the same. As an adult, you're going to struggle. So, read this. Never let anyone put you down. Never let anyone steal who you are. Something like that I put. It was a very heartfelt message. He texted me back and goes, Dad, I do remember when you used to read this to me. Okay.
Right.
Where the tissue?
That's how I start having.
Where's the tissue? Right.
I do remember that you used to read this to me. And Dad, listen, you always know when I need something like this. This hit the spot today. I really needed it. Thank you so much.
Right.
I'm full now. I'm in my office. I'm in my office at my desk. I'm trying to wipe tears away. I'm like, this is working.
I did something right. Yeah.
So to the point. Wait, I do a lot right with my kids.
No, I mean, as far as in the moment, I did something good right now. Yeah.
So that's an example of, while it is thankless, because the term now is what you get your flowers. Your kids eventually, as they get on their own, as they mature, as things start happening to them, if you gave them proper guidance, if you continue to be a force in their life, if you continue to give them information and lead by example, it does eventually, your flowers and your thank yous do come.
I want to take you back to when you're raising them, they're a little younger, you know what I mean? And parenting is day to day, it's moment to moment, minute to minute, hour to hour. And those moments where it's a crisis, right? And you're trying to work it out. And when you lay down at night and those doubts creep in, am I doing the right thing? So on and so forth. What conversation does Nick have with Nick to get him to the next day?
Oh, you're not playing no games right now. So there were a lot of days like that. Still are. What I have
take your time.
So let me say it this way. I knew what my plan was for my sons. I knew what it took and what it takes to be a successful black man. I knew what adversities were going to come up against them. I knew what mistakes potentially they could befall them. I knew that if we were a crisis, the crisis was something that was going to continue to come, and we had to address the crisis, kick the wall down, climb over the wall, go around the wall, dig under the wall. Whatever the crisis was, we were going to get through it. Those nights where I was unsure because of other influences, as your kids get older, they have more influences. You've got social media, you've got technology, you've got YouTube, you've got all these other things. You've got people in their life. Here's a good one. I've been nicknamed and teased by friends, family, of being the Joe Jackson in my boy's life. Because
they got 2 scholarships.
It's not a bad thing.
That's the end result. No one saw. Not no one, but it's hard to see the end of the struggle or the end result when you're in the fight, right? You can't see the victory while you're in the fight. You can just see the wars, the battles that you're winning, and hoping it leads to ultimate victory. So during those times when they were younger and I was pushing the football, I had them working out excessively. I had them with their quarterback coach would have them. We'd be up at 5 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning, in the middle of the snow training. We'd be out 5 a.m. in the morning in the rain training, and they'd be training for 3-4 hours. Well, I'm crazy. Why am I getting up? I'm off work. Why am I getting up taking my kids to this type of practice? Well, if you play football, you don't just always get to play in the sun. You don't get to play in the nice weather. You play through the fall, through the winter. So you're going to have these weather elements. Well, those are the things that taught my sons work ethic, grit. It made them game ready for the elements of the world that they were going to be dealing with. That's how I've raised them outside of that. So when I have conversations, when we make decisions, when they make bad decisions, when I make bad decisions, I mean, while I believe I do a phenomenal job, and I just highlighted, I think I'm an exceptional parent, that's come with some failures on my part. That's come with some mistakes on my part. That's come with me learning my children, because as they grow, they are human beings and their personalities take hold, and you have to respect where they are. So a lot of those conversations with myself at night were, I'm not ashamed to say, tear-filled, fear-filled, and I had to always remind myself that it's just a day. And I always looked at myself and said, was I right? Was I wrong? What could I have done better?
Right.
What could I have? How could I have prevented the situation from happening? And sometimes I woke up the next day and I had to apologize to my sons. Sometimes I had to say, Dad didn't handle that right. Dad didn't guide you right. I didn't prepare you appropriately for the situation. So it's not all your fault, it's my fault. But here's my culpability and my responsibility, but here's yours. And I think because I was always able to talk my sons through it, they understood it. They grasped it more, and it helped us to be where and who we are.
Right. I wanted to know about, because I always wonder sometimes when they're female single mothers, do they ever think to themselves that they're not doing something right, or what would the father do if the father, was in the child's life? Do they ever think about that? Because to me, women and men both play a role in raising kids. So is there ever a time when it comes to giving advice to your children that you feel like, wow, this is something they should be talking to their mama about? You know what I mean? Or, do you ever feel like, did I give that advice right because you're a guy? You know what I mean? And this might be something that should come from their mother, or is it like, well, I'm a man and they men, so all my advice is right. You know what I mean?
So that's a few different questions. So let me start with the easiest question first. Just because I'm a man and they're men, all my advice isn't always right.
Okay.
Do I believe that a mother's influence on sons when giving advice is more impactful or equally as impactful to a father's? I say this respectfully, so don't women start yelling at me or beat me up. I believe
you might get beat up, but that's what we're here for. They need to hear it.
For sure. So I believe that fathers don't get the credit they deserve, period, across the board. Whether they're, and when I say that, I'm talking about all the fathers that are actively in their children's lives doing the job. And the reason I say this, I'll give you some examples. If you go to, when my sons were younger, and even in their teenage years, when I would take them to a doctor's appointment or an ER appointment, we're in the ER on a Saturday night, and my son's going through an illness and going through something. You could tell the difference from how a nurse or a doctor will speak to you as a father than when you see the mother, how they speak to the mother. They almost talk to the father like, well, it must be your weekend. You here because it's your weekend. You don't really know what you're talking about. Hey, can we call the mother? Or if the mother shows up, then they address the mother rather than you. So I think that first and foremost, fathers that are active and doing the job need to be given more respect and more appreciation for the job they do. And that's not knocking. Mothers do a phenomenal job. If you are, and I will say this consistently, I never understand how a man could ever be disrespectful to a woman. If you've watched a woman go from being just herself in her body to growing a child in her body to going through the delivery process. When we make jokes about can men ever do this, we can never do that. So we're never strong enough to make that happen.
Nowhere for that to happen.
To go through that process, I don't know how you could ever disrespect a mother, a woman, or not understand the value of a mother. But society, and in part sometimes it's not unjustifiable, because in society, if our black men would be more accountable to raising the children that they make, regardless if you wanted it or not, you got to be there and raise your children. So there are reasons that maybe justify it, but we're at a position in time, 2025, where fathers should get their flowers.
Right.
So I believe in my life, yes, my advice is always going to trump all. My rule is always going to trump all. And that's not to take away from my son's mom. That's not to take away from any mother of anyone's children. But as a father, as a man of the household, I'm old school. I'm the head of the household. As long as I'm earned it and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, I lead the house. I set the stage for how my sons and the blueprint for what I expect for my sons to be. And that doesn't mean that I don't take feedback. That doesn't mean that their mom or mothers don't add value and aren't tremendous in the raising of the sons. But just from my situation as a single parent, I've always had to make the decisions unilaterally for what's going to be best for my sons. And I got 2 scholarship-bound collegiate. One already scholarship-received collegiate athlete, and I have a college-bound collegiate athlete, team no tuition, 2025. So clearly, what I've done has worked, and I just have good human beings. And I'm told that because as a parent, you always think your kids are the best and they can do no wrong. And for sure, I believe my sons can do no wrong. But realistically, I know that's not the case. But when other people tell you when you're not around that they're good humans, then the plan worked.
You did what you had to do, and
Correct.
It worked. In terms of being a man and masculinity, most of us are raised to be masculine. Don't show any emotion. don't show any feelings, so on and so forth. Did you allow your sons to see you be vulnerable?
Absolutely. The biggest mistake that as men make, the biggest mistake we make is continue to perpetuate this cycle that masculinity means no vulnerability. You're your ultimate masculine self when you can be vulnerable, because in vulnerability it allows you to not only see and receive and be empathetic to the situations of whomever you're dealing with, your children, your spouse, whoever. It allows them to see you at the moments where you're trying to teach them how to go through things. So you can't teach your son that it's okay to cry if they've never seen you cry. You can't teach your son that it's okay to experience heartbreak if you've never expressed how you've dealt with heartbreak. So I used to tell my sons when they were younger, it's okay to cry. Now, if you're crying because you took that cookie I told you not to eat,
Right.
and I found out you lied about it, well, then there's no tears for that.
Right.
The tears for that are null and void. That's the way it's said. That's trying to elicit an emotional response to get out of trouble. That's never going to work. That's going to get you in more trouble. But if you are heartbroken, your first girlfriend broke your heart, your third girlfriend broke your heart, you set a goal for yourself and didn't reach that goal and thought you gave everything to it and didn't understand what you didn't give to it and got extremely frustrated, and your emotional response was tears or anger, that's okay. Let's talk about how we work through that and how we process it and how we use what we've learned from it to get to the other side. So vulnerability is extremely important, and men in general, whether you determine yourself to be a masculine man, an alpha male, whatever definition you attribute to yourself, vulnerability has to be a key. You can't raise, and as I've said, for me being a single parent, I've had to be everything that my children's needed. Now, I've always said this, and I will forever say this. I disagree with women when they say, I'm the mom and the dad. You're not. You're not. Women need to stop saying, I'm the mom and the dad. If a father's not present, you're their mother.
Right.
And you may sometimes have to diversify the way you approach how you work with your children, but you can never be a mother and a father. So I can never say I'm a dad and the mom.
Right.
But what I am is I'm a father that is in tune with the emotions of my children, and I am what they need me to be when they need me to be it. And that goes a long way. That comes from having, I knew who all my son's friends are. There are some people they want to be friends with that you can't be friends with because they don't line up with the lifestyle or the values that our family has. I go to parent-teacher conferences. I talk to their teachers. I talk to the parents' friends. I confirm, you going over somebody's house? Great. Let me call the parent to make sure they know you coming. Let me make sure they understand how long you're going to be there. You want to spend the night? Great. Let me make sure the parents. So I was so, and still am, but as my sons are older, some of these things have changed. But I was so involved in my son's life to such a degree that I knew what they were doing, when they were doing. Now, lastly, I got cameras all around my house. You can't get away with nothing. You can't. I'm seeing everything. I'm hearing private conversations. But all those things help, right? I go through their room. I said this all the time. I was talking to a friend of mine recently, and I still, maybe I shouldn't say that they're going to see this, but I still go through their rooms when they're not home. I sneak through their rooms. I'm looking to see what's in the room. My sons, thank God, no drugs. No issues with alcohol, no issues with vaping or the vape pens or whatever the latest fun craze is. But if they were, and I'm blessed, and I'm lucky, and I'm thankful every day that's not the case. But if they were, it wouldn't be for long, because at some point I'm going to find residue of what you're not doing. I'm going to find out what's under your bed. I'm looking through your pillows. I'm looking in drawers. I'm looking in books. I'm looking at all the places that I remember hiding stuff at in my house, in my room. That's what I'm looking at. I did it all. You can't get past me. So I'm looking at those things to make sure that I know what's going on in my kids' lives. So I had to do those things to be involved, to be available, to show all sides. Now, the secret is, and I just blew it that I told my sons I'm going through the rooms, is I would find things all the time.
They might not watch this far.
Right, hopefully.
They gonna watch a little bit,
yeah. I'm done. So I would find things and incriminating things or things that they shouldn't have done or didn't do, and I would sit on it. So I had to sit on it because not everything requires a level 5, and I I could go level 5 every time, but not everything requires a level 5. So I would find things and I would sit on them and I would think about, well, when I was their age, because that's a part of parents too. We forget.
We do.
What it's like to be that age.
We were kids.
We've grown, we matured, we live in life. We're tasked with the responsibility of raising these many humans, and we forget what we used to do. So I used to try and go, okay, what was I at this age? What did I do? I hear things too great. So it may be 2 weeks down the road, I started conversation to get them to tell me what I need to know based off information I already have. No different than a police investigation. If they got the evidence, they're coming in when they do their interrogation. They're coming in asking questions based off evidence they have that you don't know they have. So I would start
Jedi mind trick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
In terms of accountability, I'm Gen X, so we came along during a time where they held us accountable with the rod or the belt or the hand or the extension cord, right? I'm assuming we're around the same age. If you don't mind me asking, how did you hold your sons accountable as they were coming along? What discipline style does Nick believe in?
You might be getting too deep now.
So I suffered the hand of all of those as a kid.
Yeah.
So when they were younger, I believe in whoopings. I believe in whoopings. As they got older, I moved more from. So when they were younger, I went to belt, old school belt to butt. When they got a little older, and you remember what you learned is, you remember when you miss them, and it hits you.
Yeah.
That pain is real.
Yeah.
So as I got older, or as they got older, I went to ruler to hand, which is very pain. Like that's old school. My mom used to have the painters. You remember old school above the door jamb. You had the long yardstick. She picked that bad boy up and smack you, and oh, that hurt. So I took rulers to hands for a little while, and then ultimately I determined probably by the time they were like 5 or 6 that I didn't really want to be the parent that beat them into submission. Because again, one of those things I thought about. Well, I used to really hate this. Why am I doing? I'm doing it.
Right.
I'm doing it the same reason I got the ketchup, mustard, silverware drawer in the kitchen that all black families had because we just always had it, right? So I decided I didn't really want to do that, so I started a couple things. And I don't know about trademark infringement, so I'm not going to say the name of the movie, but there was a movie where they talked about a circle of trust, where whatever's shared in a circle of trust.
With Robert De Niro.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever's shared in a circle of trust, you won't be punished for it. So I started that first and foremost. I went to my son and said, listen, we're going to stop doing this. We're going to stop whooping. We're going to stop doing this. I talk to you enough. I'm educating you. You can talk back. You can express yourself. Circle of trust. Anything you tell me, if I ask you a question, if you bring me something, if you tell me the truth, there's no punishment. There's no repercussions. There's a conversation. Now, if you're repeating the same behavior, different story. The trust will always get you a lesser punishment, but the repetitive nature of not learning from a bad mistake will get you eventually a punishment. But the circle of trust is what I started first. That helped a lot, where they felt like they can talk to me. That's the biggest anchor we deal with as parents is how are we relatable, and how do we encourage our children to come talk to us. And there are a couple of different ways people do it. I was never when they were younger, the fun parent. I'm your dad. I'm not your friend. Right? That bit me in the butt. Years later, I was talking to my son. I asked him, I said, you want to hang out with your dad? My son said,
You my dad.
You my dad. You're not my friend. We can't hang out.
Yeah.
You got me. Shut up. We're going to hang out anyway because I'm your dad and I'm paying.
Right.
So I was never the fun parent. But what I was the parent that believed that I needed to make sure my sons could feel comfortable talking to me. So removing punishments for truth telling was a great way, and it helped us out substantially. Also, just educate them. I think that I read something. I went to a seminar when they were younger, and I cannot remember this gentleman's name, but he was a Harvard-educated teacher, and he was doing a seminar. And one of the things that stuck with me that he said was, at that time, and this was 10, 15 years ago, at that time, there was a study done that the amount of words said in non-black households were, in a given day, 7,000 to 10,000 words were said in the household. In the African American or brown households, it was something like less than 1,000.
Wow.
And I want to make sure it probably was less than that, but I don't want to cheat the results at the time. And that stuck with me. And what that came from was, we don't sit at dinner table and have conversation. We let other things raise our children. We let other devices raise our children. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, sometimes it was out of necessity. You got a mom who's a single mom or a single dad who's working 2 or 3 jobs. So it just happens. But it stuck with me and it resonated with me that the reason some of our children aren't good readers or aren't as articulate as they can be and don't understand dialect is because we're not talking in the household. So taking from that, because I did a ton of studies, went to a ton of seminars when my kids were younger, just trying to be the best parent I can be, took that information and implemented it. So circle of trust, communication. We're going to always talk. I'm going to always talk up to you. I'm not going to talk down to you. So when my sons were 3 or 4, I'm talking to them like they're 7 or 8. When they were 7 or 8, I'm talking like they're 10 or 12. I was always talking up to them, which required them to talk up to me. I never used small words when they got to a certain, when you're a baby, whenever younger, whenever under 1, 2. But when they got to a certain age, I spoke to them the same way I spoke to everyone else. I would use whatever my vernacular or my verbiage or my wording would be, I would speak to them that way. That may cause them, and that will cause them to say, well, Dad, what does that mean? I don't know what that word means. Or I would follow up, do you know what I just said? Do you understand what I mean? No, then I'll explain it. Again, that caused us to be able to always have conversation and always talk. So between the circle of trust, between always having great conversation, and then between always being there, I think that one of the pieces that we lack when I talk about the sacrifice piece is, especially when your father's in the home, when you have the mother in the house, we're so focused on working and career and making money that we're not there for all the other sides that we need to be there for our children. So by me being a single parent, I had to be at every practice. I had to be at every game. I had to be at every recital, every band practice or rehearsal or concert. I had to be at bedtime. I had to read them books. I had to cook dinner. I had to teach them nutrition. I had to. And now, I say all the has, so you get the emphasis that I put on myself to be there. None of it was a chore. It was I get to. It is an enjoyment. It was me learning how to do that. So because I created the Circle of Truth, I created complete, true, and open communication. I talked up to my children. And because I was always there, those things allowed me to accomplish the goals, which are the question you asked.
So let's get into this part. Okay, so I know you're a single dad, but I know you see all of these things on the news, situations where, outsiders come in and disrupt the household as far as the kids go. And I won't get into any deep stories, but as far as dating, where are you on exposing the kids to who you're dating? How is dating? Like, is that hard? Is it, something you had to try to squeeze in, or is it just a no?
So dating is hard with no children.
Unpack that.
Right? So we start there. Dating with children is exceptionally hard, and I'll say it this way. My experience, and I can't speak to everyone, but I've had, when I articulate this, I've had men agree with me. Women, not all, so again, don't attack me. Women always say they want a good man. They want a good father. And what that has come to me, and when I was single dating women, what that came to me as long as I'm available for them, then I'm good. So, for example, most men get their children every other weekend and 2 days a week during the week. So it'd be like you get them Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You take them back Sunday. They're home Monday. Then you get them on Tuesday and you go back. So realistically, you're talking 5 days a week. You really, as a father, if you only followed the co-parenting script of whatever county in the state you live in, you get your children 5 days a week. So most women that are dating single fathers are used to that. So now when you're a father that has their children all the time,
full time,
and they're with me all the time, all of a sudden, I can't be available for you. All of a sudden, yes, we had plans, but my sons, all of a sudden the coach called and they want to do a practice because he's available, and my sons have a game next week, so this practice is crucial to get them prepared for the game. No, I'm sorry, I can't do this date tonight. I got to do this. So when women all of a sudden start realizing that you prioritize your children as high as they prioritize theirs, and you put them first, all of a sudden it's not always as fun.
Right.
And that good father component doesn't reign true, because now I got my kids 25 days a month instead of 5 days a month. And what happens is when you start going, hey, I can't see you this week because I'm booked with my children. I can't see you that week because I'm booked with my children. All of a sudden, being a good man and a good father isn't the coolest thing in the world anymore when you're dating. Now, as far as once you find someone that understands you and you cultivate a relationship and you know that their values sync up, and more importantly, you know that you have a real future with them, then yeah, absolutely, you should definitely introduce them to the children. And I'm not saying that should take 6 months or a year, sooner than later, because at the end of the day, for me, if my sons don't like the person that I'm dating, I'm not dating them.
So is it easier for you to date women that have children as well, or it's easier to date women that don't have children?
You almost made me cuss.
Don't do that.
That's a tough question. So I've done both. I've dated women with children. I've dated women without children.
So you can tell us, because you look. So I get it.
So okay. So let me say it this way. The hardest thing when you're dating someone who has children and you have completely different parenting styles, it's hard to think about how you, because blending a family, so dating with no children is hard, dating with children is hard, blending a family is the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life, because there's so many parties involved. Dating when you have someone who you have completely different parenting styles is tough, because if you can't agree to get on the same page, that's the worst thing in the world, because you'll never take advice from each other. Right. It's hard to take advice from someone when you don't respect the way they parent. And it's hard to take advice from someone when you believe you're doing a better job parenting your children than they are theirs. Right. And vice versa. It's hard to, if you're honest with yourself, it's hard to, if you feel like you're not up to snuff with the person that you're looking at, taking advice from can be tough because it hits your ego. So it's a very tough dynamic. And I applaud and take my hat off to everyone who makes that work, because it's extremely difficult. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are a ton of people who want to make that work, but it's hard. It takes real work. Right. Dating someone that does not have children, well, that's its own bag, right? Because if you're dating that person and you're dating that person with intentionality to be married or be in a couple or be in a committed relationship, well, do you want more children? Does that person want more children? Toughest thing in the world to be someone who doesn't want any more children, and you're dating someone with no children that wants children. Right. At the same time, let's say that person doesn't want children, they're content with being your children, but then again, I need you, because you have no parenting experience, I need you to take the way that I raise my children and raise my children the same way. And that's really tough, because everyone eventually feels like they have their own rhythm to parenting, and that's a very tough dichotomy. I've had conversations with, I'll give you an example of one of the points that I'm making. So neither of my sons have ever had a job. I've not made them work traditionally, where they go get a job at 16 and they get paid $8,000 an hour for whatever. My reasoning for that was, one, I'm blessed enough that my sons don't have to work, right? A lot of the time in our culture, in our communities, when you have a single parent or even a couple parents, life is tough, finances are tough, and that's not me saying because I'm blessed enough that they didn't have to work. Doesn't mean I haven't struggled. Again, that goes back to the sacrifice piece. So I'm not saying here that my life has been, lilies and roses, and I've always had all this money, and I'm rocking to the high heavens. Right. That's just saying I made the sacrifice of saying that wasn't important to me for my sons to go get a job, because in our community, we're so quick, because we're struggling, to have them go get a job, because we don't explain what value is, what struggle is, what work is. So what my sons learned their work ethic from was, first and foremost, from what I instilled in them. You got to get up at this time. You got to do these chores. You got to study. You got to do your study for this hours. You got to read a book every night for this amount of time. You got to practice your instrument every amount for this amount of time. You got to do your language. So I had structure in my home for the work that they had to do and the chores they had to do. On top of that structure, they've always been athletes. My sons have. You have to be involved in something. So be it if it's karate, gymnastics, football, you have to be in a sport. That sport dictates that you have to commit to the process of becoming great at whatever position you are. Mm-hmm. That's practice. That's consistent practice. That's instruction. That's receiving instruction. That's work ethic. That's grit. That's understanding that, oh, well, I'm gonna phone it in today, or I'm gonna halfway do the practice. No. And when you're not at the practice at the school, I have all the equipment that the school has, so you can practice at home by yourself. So I taught them the values of working without putting them at a job.
Right.
Well, I've dated women that go, your sons aren't appreciative or they're entitled because they've never had to work for anything in their life. Well, let's do some math. So when I started the conversation, if my sons had worked, if you start at 16, which is when you're legally able to work, you start at 16, you work a job that's paying you $10 an hour.
And it's let me go back. So it's women that you might be dating saying this to you about your kids
and friends
being entitled?
For sure.
Wow.
For sure.
Okay.
So now I go, hey, what's the math on if my son made $10 an hour and worked 16 hours a week? What's that a week? How much is he making a month? Multiply that by a year, right? And let's just say that number ends up being they made $10,000 in that year, which is high for a kid working part-time. Mm-hmm. Well, so over 4 years, let's say that's $40,000. Well, my oldest son has a 4-year scholarship. The tuition at his school is, let's just say, $40,000. Mm-hmm. So he'd have worked part-time, which means wouldn't have been able to develop the skills to achieve this scholarship.
Right.
So the first year cancels out. I'm in the green because I got the other 3 years at $40,000. We made 40, 80, 120 grand by him not working a single day. Right. So it was just a mindset of they didn't need to go to a job and work. Also, my mindset is this: you're an adult. If you're a child from, let's say, 0 to 20, just for easy math. Mm-hmm. Assuming you live to 60, you're an adult twice as long as you're a child. Mm-hmm. I think that we do our children a disservice in our community by putting them to work so young. They get the whole rest of their life to work. Let them enjoy being a child. Let them enjoy, and that's one of the things I never had. I didn't get to enjoy my childhood, so I wanted to make sure my children enjoyed their childhood and enjoy being children. And when you're an adult, all those things are going to come on you.
I think that's when kids aren't doing the most. Like, because to me, if you're working hard, if you're waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you going to practice in the snow, that's work, and that's
true work.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you're actually getting it done. You're putting in hours. You're not getting money,
Correct.
But you're getting rewarded.
Correct.
You're reaping something.
Correct.
So I think when people think like that, or they got to work, or they haven't earned anything, I think they might be giving ridiculous things, and they like, oh, that's too much. Like, it's some kids that get Jordans all the time, or they really going in on this ridiculous things they see on TV, on TikTok, or wherever they see it. They want it. Those things, they not. And as parents, like, I can't afford this, but they want their kids to have that. So they like, you gonna have to get a job. You know what I mean? And they're not putting in that hard work that you've put in. So they don't recognize how the two, are different.
So I think we need to put this in context. Mm-hmm. So there are absolutely people who financially can't do certain things. Mm-hmm. And they can't maybe be as extravagant with what they get their children as they want to be. Mm-hmm. That goes back to making sure your children understand value. Okay? So if I'm not making a ton of money, but I know that my son wants a pair of Jordans, and my son is doing, or daughter, whoever your child is doing everything they're supposed to do, mm-hmm. then I, as a parent, I go back to sacrifice. It may take me 6 months to save up the money to buy them that pair of Jordans, but I'm going to buy them that pair of Jordans because they earned it. And they're going to value that pair of Jordans so much more if I communicated with them, going back to the piece about talking to your children, if I have the circle of trust, and if I'm there and they're seeing the struggle, so they understand it. When I buy them that pair of Jordans, they understand it.
Right. Yeah.
I am, so that's one piece of it. So you can't, financial circumstances matter. Also, you have people who are exceptionally rich who can buy their children brand new cars or Birkin bags or whatever it is. Well, for them, if you put it in context, depending upon how rich you are, a Birkin bag is equivalent to a Coach bag to some people, right? Just financially speaking. For that other middle ground is if you give your children what they want. I've always said this, and it's just the way, and I'm not saying it works for everyone. I'm saying it worked for me. I laid a plan out for my sons that I'm so strict on how I raise them and what I do and what they do, that if they do everything they're supposed to do, they can get whatever they want. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not buying my sons a Birkin bag. Right?
I mean, yeah.
Or I'm not buying them something extremely ridiculous. But what I do buy them, some people will think that is ridiculous based off of what they've been in their life. So I take it all in stride, but that's just the way that I feel. Now, again, I feel like that's where it comes from sacrifice. But at the same time, I'll give you another example. I have a full library at my house of books that I bought. So every time I got paid, and I haven't done this the last couple years, but every time I got paid, I bought a book for each of my sons. So before I bought any fun thing that they may have wanted, I bought a book. So my sons, you got to read an hour a night. The older they get, you got to read 2 hours a night. Because one of the things that you deal with when you're dealing with young black men or boys in general, boys don't read. Boys are traditionally better at math. They don't read. Well, I was gonna debunk that theory and make sure that my sons read. So I bought them books. My sons had to play instruments. They played. My oldest son played the viola. My youngest son played the trumpet. They had instruments they had to play. They had sports. They had to learn the language. My oldest son learned Spanish. My youngest son learned French. So there's so much that I put structurally on my sons that when they finally say, "Dad, I want this,"
right,
and I'm getting 4.0s and all A's, you're going to get that. And even if that means I can't get this has been a situation in my life. Truly, there are times in my sons growing up where they were flyer than I was. Right? That's what's required, because is it my job to make me the center of attention in this family, or is it my job to make my sons the center of attention? And I've always focused on making my sons the center of attention. That's what was required.
In terms of, and we're wrapping this up, in terms of the village, one of the things I'm big on is the inability for our young men to resolve conflict. You know, resolve everything with violence. It seems to be the way these days. Did you teach your sons conflict resolution, or was it a thing with everything that you surrounded them with, the environment that they grew up in, or the environment that you fostered? Was it just something that just came with the territory? They all automatically knew how to resolve conflict?
Punch him in the face. No, I'm just kidding. So I've taught my sons a little bit of everything. Yes. So obviously conflict resolution is extremely vital and important in life, period. Not just regarding physical confrontations, just regarding verbal confrontations and how to navigate relationships. So I've taught my sons physically, we don't pick on anyone. But we defend ourselves if someone comes at us.
Absolutely.
That defense could be physically. That defense could be verbally. That defense could be calling me. Whatever it is, I've taught them how to handle a situation at each end of the spectrum. If someone hits you, then we got to fight. Like we're not the turn the other cheek. We not the you take a punch and then you turn the other cheek and get hit again. No.
Right.
If someone hits you, you fight them until the teacher pulls you off, and I'm okay with that. And if you get expelled or suspended from school, then when you come and you tell me what happened, as long as you weren't the aggressor and you weren't defending, then we'll be back in school tomorrow, because we're not getting kicked out for self-defense.
Right.
Okay.
That's right.
So that was one thing. Another thing was if they're making jokes, if they're teasing you, if they're quote unquote bullying you without the physical component, Well, again, I've always talked up to my sons. So in terms of their dialect, in terms of their verbiage, in terms of how they can articulate themselves, well, they can go back and forth with you verbally with the best of them. Again, we don't want to be in that situation. Just like when I say, if someone hits you first, then you got to beat them down. But unless they hit you, there's nothing to be done.
Right.
You try to get out of it, but if someone's going to verbally come at you, you're not going to let someone push you around. Because once a bully pushes you, they're going to continue to push until you stop. So verbally, they've been able to articulate themselves and handle themselves in that regard. And then they've also been able to understand when there are things that is not for them to handle and for them to be involved in, and where they need to come get me. And when they come get me, I'm coming with everything. And I'm going to bring you whatever you want. Because for my sons, and this is just how I've lived my life, I'm willing to lay my life down for my sons.
Absolutely.
So if you want to mess with a Hardy boy, you got to deal with the ultimate Hardy boy, and that's me. And so no one wants to deal with that. So if they call me and someone's hurting my children, then you got a problem.
Well, you guys heard that. You don't want to mess with a Hardy boy, all right? It was a very good pleasure talking to you, Nick.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here.
It's so, it's a situation where mothers just really get all the praise and credit and everything, and they really expect it, even to the detriment of even when the fathers are involved, mothers just really take all the credit. So it was very important for us tonight to make sure that we got, the point across that there are fathers who are raising their children, who are in their children's life, who have created a village for their children, who are the village for their children. That was very important to us. So we are very thankful and grateful that you came and shared, your experience with us. And we know it's other dads out there that's really kicking it up and doing the same thing.
And let's be clear, ladies and gentlemen, the information that Nick shared with us tonight, this is news that single fathers and mothers can use. Every parenting style, everybody's different. Everybody do a different thing, but he definitely dropped some nuggets tonight that I would encourage you to incorporate into your parenting style, because it worked for him, and so I hope that you're open-minded enough tonight to be able to receive the information that he shared with us. I appreciate you being here, brother. I really do.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys for having me. Again, there's no book. There's no, I'm sorry. There are a ton of books, and the reason that there are a ton of books is because there's no clear-cut right direction or path. But as long as you are sacrificing for your children every day, and you believe that you're making the right decisions for them, then keep doing it. That's all that matters. We're all in the same struggle. We all just want to produce and create great humans.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, guys. This is Live, Love, Laugh, the podcast. And we had a great show tonight. We had Nick Hardy here, single father, doing the most for his boys, and is going to clearly continue to do so. And we thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed tonight's show on Live, Love, Laugh, the podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on YouTube. Tell your friends about it. All right. Don't forget Ghosted, because we're looking for your emails. We're looking for you guys to, send us your emails at ghosted@livelovelaughthepodcast.com. That's ghosted @livelovelaughthepodcast.com. We're going to keep your identity secret, right?
Right.
We're not going to say who you are if that's what you're scared about, but send us the email and tell us about a date that you had that didn't go well and you ghosted the person, or the person ghosted you and you want to know what that was about. Maybe we can salvage something. Maybe we can do something about it. So we want to reboot that first date and get something going with that.
Absolutely. So drop us an email. Let us know what you're thinking on the date that you ghosted or was ghosted. As AJ said, we're going to try to reboot that and get you off on the good foot.
Yeah. If you made it to the end of the show, you are the bomb, and you have been following us. This is episode 4, and we're looking forward to 5. That's every week, a new episode every week. We're not playing. We're here to stay. So again, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Okay. check out Patreon because we got some bonus footage on there too. You have to subscribe on there. And go to YouTube for the full episode.
We're on Amazon as well.
Mm-hmm.
We're on Spotify. We on Apple yet? If we're not, we're working on it. That's coming up. Did I miss one?
I think it's like, which
Facebook.
one do you like the most?
We're on Facebook. So like, subscribe, and share on Facebook as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Pick the one you like the most, but pick YouTube too. Let's just say that. That's right now. That's gonna be our driving force. Is YouTube. Pick the other ones that you like anywhere except Apple right now, but we're working on that as well. So we'll see you guys next week.
All right. Well, good night, everybody.